everybody. It's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are reviewing a Slappyworld book, and it has been a while since we've reviewed one of those. And
it's another bad one.
Remember, Slappyworld is a Goosebumps related book. It's by R.L. Stine, and Slappy, the character of Slappy, is played by Joe Freya, and he is not in the story as part of the story. He is just doing his usual shtick, which is introducing it and doing little, what would you call it, like commercial breaks, although they're not a commercial advertising anything. He just makes a couple of comments.
Okay, so now on to the actual review. This book is called They Call Me the Night Howler, and immediately with this book there were several red flags. One of those red flags was the cover. The cover is terrible. It looks like something that like somebody did in like 30 minutes or less. Like, instead of, our pizza place guarantees that we'll bring you your pizza in 30 minutes or less, or else you get it for free or something. Like, instead of that, that's what this cover was like. It's like, oh, we guarantee you that we will get you this book cover in 30 minutes or less, and put no effort into it at all, and just make this stupid cover with hands reaching out of darkness, and then a pair of eyes, and it's like, really? Really?
It doesn't really go with the book either, because
no.
I didn't really pay attention to the cover, but looking at it and thinking about the story, it says They Call Me the Night Howler. The Night Howler is a comic book character in the story, and this isn't even a character. It's just like something invisible behind a curtain with hands, and that can't be. That's not even a one-dimensional character.
Yeah, I was really curious as to what the book would be about based on the cover. Because the cover, it tells you nothing about the story. And the title, too. The title, They Call Me the Night Howler, is like a really dull title. Like, you think about, R.L. Stine literally just sits around thinking, what should I do today? Oh, They Call Me the Night Howler. That's a good title for some story that I haven't come up with yet. Let's come up with a story now. We're going to have this kid. What I think though with this book is that he didn't even come up with a story related to the title. I think that Scholastic told him superheroes are really popular, so you need to do a superhero Goosebumps book. And I think that he did not put any effort into this book, and he could have done something else with the Night Howler title, but he was forced to do a superhero book, and he did this really shitty story here, and that's what I think the story was. What do you think, Safi?
Well, the character comes from a comic, right? Not an existing comic, but in the story, right?
Yeah.
He likes to read comics.
So?
And we thought of, when we were talking about this, that he could have made a part 2 of the original comics-related story that he had done years ago. And, of course, this isn't related to that at all. And so...
Attack of the Mutant.
That's what I thought. Attack of the Mutant. And it's not related at all. And
we can't do that. We can have a million Slappy stories, but we can't have one sequel to Attack of the Mutant.
But the problem is, Slappy is not in the story at all. As part of the story, like I said.
Well, why are you complaining about that when you know that that's what it's like for every single book of the Slappyworld series, except for the Slappy ones?
It's in a few.
Really? Slappy's in It's Alive. Slappy's in the Shutter Mansion one. He's in the Invisible Boy one. He's in those, Safi?
Marco's going to be argumentative. But anyway, really this is more about superheroes, like Marco said, like somebody told him to write a superhero story.
This book is like you go to Taco Bell and you say, Taco Bell, I want a fucking chicken quesadilla, a Loco Taco, a burrito supreme, and a freeze. And what does Taco Bell give you? What do they give you, Safi? They give you a fucking bag of fruit snacks. That's what the fuck they give you. That's what this book is like. It's like, here you go. Here's some fruit snacks. Or it's like the time where we went trick-or-treating the last time, and I go to that one house, and what do I get? Fruit snacks. Who wants fruit snacks on Halloween? Who wanted this book right here? This book sucks. And I'm sick of these stupid Slappyworld books. There's hardly any good ones. They all suck. I'm sick of these books.
Okay, Marco, I really don't get your... Don't have to act like that.
Well, you shouldn't have taken my Roblox away either.
But anyway, it's almost like R.L. Stine doesn't really know about superheroes, or he wasn't really in the mood to do this.
No, he wasn't in the mood at all. You can tell.
Because the whole story is kind of goes a certain way, and the boys, there's a boy who's 12, and his name is Mason Brady. He has a sister named Stella, who's younger, of course, and it kind of goes like all these stories do at the beginning, and many of them, not all of them, and he has a certain attitude about superheroes, but it's kind of like comics too. They're intertwined, but it's really more about superheroes. It's just really weird. It's not very fleshed out.
And we're going to go through this shitty story because I wrote all these notes about how shitty this was, and I couldn't wait to just talk about the shitty story. So, first off, they have a museum in this universe. It's called the Comic Art Museum. Now, the museum doesn't sound like it's catering to real superhero history at all.
No.
Because it just sounds like it's comic art. But apparently in this museum, there's real superheroes' costumes, which doesn't make any sense because you think, number one, it's a stupid idea. Why are you yawning? You just took a nap. So first off, it's stupid because supervillains would be breaking into this museum all the time to steal these suits. You think about if Batman had his utility belt donated to the museum, which is the stupidest idea I've ever fucking heard. What a fucking lazy ass idea that is. If that utility belt was in the museum, it would have to be on guard 24/7. This museum should have had superheroes guarding every single hallway everywhere, because you can guarantee that if this was real and if superheroes left their costumes that had all these powers there, they would all get stolen. Or maybe a bunch of quote-unquote peaceful protesters would come in there and steal them. You know the types. And then also you think about, if superheroes give up their costumes to a museum, what's going to be in this costume, Safi? DNA? Evidence? Supervillains? Oh, that one guy, Lester the Molester, who you like to molest children, that was his supervillainous activity. Well, he turned his suit into the Comic Art Museum, and there's DNA all up in that bitch. And guess what? Lester the Molester is finally caught. Cha-ching! And you think about that as idiotic as hell. Superheroes and supervillains. Superhero is illegal. Vigilantism is illegal. Superheroes with brains would not be giving up their superhero costumes with all their DNA in it to a museum. Safi?
Okay, well, my whole problem right now is the thing is, it's a superhero or comic book I just thought really it's a comic book art museum.
No,
We only
they
find
said
out
they
when-
had all the costumes in there
The
too.
costumes of what?
Real
Because
superheroes.
But they don't. There are no real superheroes.
Yes, there are,
even
Safi.
the guy
They said
says-
there were.
Even the guy says, "I thought this was all just made up, or it didn't really exist."
What?
That's just what I don't get.
Well, you're confused, but you're just demonstrating
Well,
that this doesn't make any sense.
No,
and
it
it's
doesn't make any
it's not
sense.
fleshed out at all.
No, it's
There's
not fleshed out at all.
There was no clear indication to me that they were saying that there were no actual superheroes in this universe. I thought that they were acting like they were real and that this museum was in honor of them and comic books at the same time. Very, very stupid.
No, I see. That's where I disagree. I didn't at all think they were real. And then they had, remember at the very beginning, they get approached by this one, and then they find out he's just an actor. So it's not a real thing. And so it kind of plays along with the story.
But then for some reason, the real superheroes and villains are there too.
Which
just
that's why I say
casually walking around this museum.
it's like the ideas are just waffling around. They're kind of like, it's like in a lottery machine with the balls come up through the tube, and one keeps popping up after another. After the ideas keep popping up.
The difference,
and they don't go together.
The difference between that lottery game and this book is that R.L. Stine doesn't have any balls anymore. And so,
well, I'm not talking like that, but anyway.
Well, I am, because this book fucking sucked. It was 2.5 hours, a waste of 2.5 hours.
2 hours and 43 minutes of an audio book.
What a waste.
Which is how we usually do the books now.
The story is initiated by the kid. He's where did he go again when he walked in on the superhero?
Well,
I mean,
he
what
wanted to
room
be
was
by
that?
himself, and I think he just went to a room that was, I don't even know. It wasn't any extraordinary room.
But it was really weird and hilarious and dumb. This kid, he walks in on the main superhero undressing.
Yeah.
And that's a scene in this book. And you think about, that's kind of creepy.
He thought it was an actor changing, and like, why is he changing in this room? Because he had just come across another person who was an actor. In fact, this guy knew that the other guy was an actor. So they know who's who in the museum, which is weird.
And he doesn't tell the kid to leave. He tells him to stay in there with him while he's undressing. and then and then they have this stupid little talk where the kid's like, the Night Howler, he's like, man, being a superhero is hard. I want to give it up. There's better fish to fry. And so he's getting out of his superhero outfit forever, and so that he can just, I don't know, sit around and watch the Kardashians all day or something. And the kid's like, why are you giving up? Being a superhero isn't hard. And he's like, oh, really? You want to find out? And then he gives him his superhero costume, and he lets this innocent 12-year-old child turn into a superhero for however long he wants. And I thought, this is the dumbest fucking idea ever.
Yeah, but the thing is,
Ever.
Caveats to the whole thing. He can't tell anybody that he's the superhero because the powers of this superhero character, I don't know if it's for every single one, but this particular one are in the costume itself. And if you reveal who you are, the powers will die. They'll disappear. So he has to be quiet about it. He can't even tell his family. He even said you can't tell your pets, which is weird.
It's basically,
Queer.
well, why is it queer?
You can't tell your dog because what, your dog's going to tell on you? I mean, come on.
Well, the thing is, though, is that this idea is stupid because you think about, why would a superhero, why would he let a 12-year-old child take over the mantle, who a 12-year-old who's had no training at all. His power set is lame and weak. I mean, what's the Night Howler's powers? He can fly.
He can make a cloud over you and kind of entrap you.
Yeah, he can make a cloud.
And make yourself, in other words, if you wanted to move surreptitiously, quietly, and not let other people detect you, can put it over yourself and move. That would mean himself. So he could come up behind somebody because he'd have a cloud over him, and they wouldn't know he was there. And that's how he, in the future, that's how he would leave the house. Now, how did he know that he had to do some kind of superhero, whatever, save somebody or whatever? Because he would get a phone call. He has a phone. He's a 12-year-old with a phone. Okay, I guess today all 12-year-olds have phones because of school activities, maybe. I don't know, which makes sense to me. And so he would get a call, and he says, well, who's the call from? I don't know.
Yeah, this is R.L. Stine's approach to storytelling. I don't know.
He really did. I don't know. And that's never revealed. Ever.
It's Commissioner Gordon.
So, he lets this kid... He agreed to it, and remember, he has a rule. The rule is not to reveal himself, or it's goodbye. And now, this seems like to be a good kid. You don't hear that he's done something bad. He's not a bully or anything. And this,
but how does that guy know?
I know that, but I'm saying we know this about him. But I'm only bringing it up because in the end, for me, it's significant. Because we're not happens. We're not at the end.
Yeah, we're not jumping to the end like you like to do.
It up because I want you all to remember that I said it.
Well, and then this book is it's really childish and dumb. It's more childish than usual. You know, usually in these Goosebumps books, you have to put up with an amount of childishness because it is a children's book, even though most of the people who read Goosebumps are all adults. But this book is like extra childish, and the stuff that happens in the book, like, it's not even really worth talking about. Like, there's this little subplot that means absolutely nothing, where this guy has a friend. Well, he has a couple friends. They all suck too. His friend is making a superhero movie, and that just felt like filler. Like, we got to do something else over here, and
well, I think it's just to show that he has friends and they have kind of similar interests. Yeah,
it's just kind of irrelevant to the story because the story's supposed to be about him being a superhero, and
it really is.
It is.
Well, I mean, coming up will be several instances where he's doing something.
Yeah, but they all suck though.
Well, for 99% of them do.
They're all childish and stupid.
The first one is the only one he's successsul at.
The different villains are really, really stupid that R.L. Stine comes up with in this book. Like, the first villain he comes upon is a mugger, and his name is the Quitter, and he just quits. And that's his thing, and it's like, this is not good writing. Like, when they came up with the Joker, this would have been like R.L. Stine. This would have been like if R.L. Stine, if he came up with the Joker is just a guy who makes jokes while he does supervillain stuff. And
yeah,
like,
that is what it is. Or it's so now it's so complex. It's
the Quitter.
Bizarre.
He just quits. He's just a quitter. Like, that is so dumb. And it's like, you know, he's a supervillain too. A supervillain who quits. Nobody would ever buy that comic book at all. So it feels like R.L. Stine is either purposefully writing a really good bad book that's like hilariously bad, or he is writing this and putting no effort into it at all and so therefore it's terrible. Because what part of that sounds interesting? Is a quitter.
Well, he does get. Well, I don't know what you want to talk about.
Well, we want to review the book, Safi.
Okay, well, when he gets a call, and his sister's very nosy. Do you want to talk about the floorboard and all that stuff?
No.
No. Okay. Well, he always he can't. Of course, he can't let his sister. His sister's really nosy, so he's the one. She's the one he's most worried about, and he has to hide his costume under a loose floorboard.
Oh, now you're going to talk about it anyway.
But when he leaves, he has to do this thing where he puts this cloud. And first of all, the real superhero found a spare costume. And now I thought that once the kid got this costume, that the other person would never have the powers again.
No, because they had this stupid exception to the rule where if you're the Night Howler and you're giving someone else a chance to become the Night Howler, you still have the Night Howler's powers.
Yeah, which really surprised me.
Which is really hypocritical and just, another example of like, this is like a child wrote a Goosebumps book. This is like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, except Shark Boy and Lava Girl was good. So
he comes to the house, and they leave it under a cloud, so the parents don't even know, and the sister doesn't know that he's leaving or gone or anything, and that there's another guy there. So they both leave, and then the guy takes him on, what would you call it, a practice or an apprentice style caper to get the bad guy. So because he has to show him what he can do, which is weird, because if this is from a comic book, wouldn't that be in the comic book stories that are already published, and so you would see what he would do? So why
and he
would
should already know.
That's right.
Just like in Attack of the Mutant, and that's another issue with this book, is that every single plot point you can go back to Attack of the Mutant and say, this is why in Attack of the Mutant this happens. This is why in Attack of the Mutant this is like this. Because Attack of the Mutant was actually written like it made sense, even though it was kind of mediocre. It made so much more sense than this book. Like that character, I think Skipper, he knew all of the powers. He knew all the characters. He was a fanboy of this comic.
Yes.
The Galloping Gazelle, and he knew everything.
Which makes sense.
This character, he's a Nimrod, and he doesn't even have a character. What's his character like? I want to be a superhero, and then I guess I get to be a superhero in this childish Goosebumps book that's not real at all. This book is very childish and very fantastical in the sense that you think about, if a real 12-year-old kid tried to be a superhero, he'd get killed immediately. And the fact that this doesn't portray that is just really, really stupid and just shows how childish Goosebumps has gotten. Because, Attack of the Mutant, you felt the danger. That mutant tower, no one in the world could even see it because it was invisible. You felt the danger with those characters, and that this kid might get killed. You don't feel any danger at all with this character, because the villains are so stupid, too. Safi?
Well, I'm just thinking about an adult handing over these adult-like powers or responsibilities to a 12-year-old. Really doesn't make sense. I mean, I've seen quite a few, quote, superhero movies, and it never would happen.
No, it wouldn't.
And,
Except for in Kick-Ass, where that did make sense. It was much better.
Yeah.
But he was still fighting alongside her the whole time. And she was still being trained the whole time. So another villain I'd like to mention, because Safi doesn't really like to review anymore.
Marco, I think I've done a pretty good job, so why don't you be quiet?
Yeah, recapping, which isn't the same thing as reviewing. And so, another terrible set of villains is the Wrecking Crew. You have, I think one guy is named Damage, and the other guy is named, like, something else or something. And the Wrecking Crew, what they do is they just go around wrecking stuff, which is idiotic as well. Like, one of the guys, they say that he likes to drive around in cars and wreck them. And you think, to like a 2-year-old kid, that kind of sounds fun. Like, oh, I'm going to take my toy car, and I'm just going to wreck all my toy cars and smash them together because I'm a dumb shit little kid. But when you think, like, even in the mind of, like, a 5-year-old child, a 5-year-old child would think about that and be like, isn't driving a car dangerous? And isn't someone who purposefully wrecks cars, isn't that a dangerous person? Like, aren't they going to get themselves hurt? Like, and when they get themselves hurt, they're going to go to the hospital and they're going to get arrested. So, like, it doesn't make sense at all. Like, the guy, the supervillain, he's going to end up like Paul Walker, right? Like, because they say he's purposefully wrecking all the cars. And, like, that is a really stupid thing to do, is to purposefully drive a car and to wreck it. Because, like, that's dangerous. Something bad's going to happen. This isn't playtime. This isn't fun and games. So I don't understand why he would do that either. Safi?
It's just that each thing that he... This is just... There's just one case where he's, like, apprenticing. Learning how to do what he's supposed to do, which, like I said, doesn't make sense because you should know what he does because he's read the comic book. Because he knew the character. He's heard... He is not familiar with all these villains. That's one thing. But yeah, that's childish, and they describe several cases that he's called on, and where he is, and what he has to do to get out of what he's doing. Not every time, but half the time, I guess. How he gets out of the situation he's in. He's at an overnight at his friends, etc., etc. And, this thing where he gets the call, and then he has to put a cloud on him and everybody else, and they forget when he does that, apparently, what's happened. And it's just like, it's very disjointed, and it's almost like you're on a road with potholes, and it's really filled with potholes, and you're kind of like jumping over them because the potholes represent pieces of the story that are just missing, and then whatever else is left is what is left in the story, and you're trying to make sense of it all, and it just doesn't. It's not good.
Well, some of the main conflict of the book is just all revolved around people not finding out his identity, and which I think is stupid because, superhero movies and shows, they've kind of drifted away from doing that since like the early 2000s, because like there's only so many times where you can have a character and like it's like, oh no, I gotta hide my identity from those people, and oh no, that one person found out in my friends group, but the others haven't. Oh no, another person found out. Oh no, the villain found out. Like, there's only so many times you can do that before people get sick and tired of it. And that's like one of the main conflicts of this book, and it's just so uninteresting. It's not even funny.
Okay, well, should we talk about a sister yet or not?
Well, I'm going to go through a couple more notes since you don't like to review.
Oh, God.
Because you're not really, like, saying, like, things you liked and didn't like.
I'm just looking away, so I won't look at your notes. I know you get mad at me for doing that, so I'm just listening to what you're saying and thinking about the story, so.
Well, one of the villains is named Dr. Maniac.
Right.
And I thought, like, what's the deal with this character? Like, why did R.L. Stine come up with this character? Well, there's a part where Dr. Maniac, he says, I'm a maniac. And I thought, oh, this is, where R.L. Stine got this villain from?
From a song.
From that song, I'm a maniac. And I thought, geez, R.L. Stine has really reached the bottom of the barrel with creativity. Like, it was so random, too. Like, Dr. Maniac, all of a sudden, he's just like, I'm a maniac. I'm like, no.
We have to mention, too, that the original Night Howler, one main reason he's quitting is he could never defeat Dr. Maniac. Why? I don't know. Because I guess he's just exceptionally clever at eluding his capture. And he was very frustrated. And that is one big reason why he quit. And so he told this kid, whose name is Mason, and so the kid's always got this in his mind at every single, what would you call it, caper, where he has to go save somebody or diffuse a situation or whatever he's asked to do.
Now,
so
another villain is named Blue Strawberry, and I was thinking, where did R.L. Stine get the idea for the Blue Strawberry?
I think strawberry shortcake. I couldn't help it.
What I think of is the fact that R.L. Stine, while he's working on this shit cluster of a book, he's sitting there at his desk, and he thought, and then he's eating his lunch, which included strawberries, and he was like, oh, wait a second, strawberry, blue strawberry, oh, that's a great idea, blue strawberry. And then there's another villain, and his name is Overtime, because he works overtime to commit evil.
That's just the dumbest thing of all.
Yeah, that is really, really dumb. It doesn't make sense, because it's like, oh, he's a workaholic, he doesn't get enough sleep or rest, so that means that he's a lot weaker than any other villain, and it's like, it's nonsensical. But then you think about, where did R.L. Stine get this title? Oh, he got it because Scholastic told him to shit out this book really fast. And so he had to rush and work overtime to get this book done. So he was like, oh, I'm working overtime. Ooh, another villain could be Overtime. Right, Safi?
Okay, well, when this character of the Blue Strawberry comes in, it's kind of like a chaotic figure in and of itself. Because whatever he's fighting, it disrupts that. And it goes against him. And it always has to do with an abundance of some kind of fruit being thrown at him or whatever. And near the beginning, when he started, when they went to the museum and everything happened there, and then they're coming home, and Stella, at one point, she's saying, I don't know if she said it in front of the brother, but she said, I really like this. I really like that museum. I'd like to create my own characters. And how hard can it be? I can do it. And so when they introduced this Blue Strawberry, and she just kept popping up at every single, not the first time when he was doing the apprenticing, it was all the rest of the times, I think. She showed up and she would mess up what he was doing, trying to capture the bad guy, right? And I guess he did have, well, maybe it was the first one. I thought he had one successful capture. He took him to the police station. But anyway, so I thought, you know what? Is that, you think, I wonder if that's his sister. And I kept thinking, because this would be a character she invented. She draws, but we never hear anything about her for except at the beginning of the book until almost near the end of the book. So I thought, I wonder if that's his sister. And she's created herself to be but it's a villain. She's creating herself to be a villain. That doesn't make sense to me either, because she's not a bad person. She wants to draw and do superheroes, so what she's creating is not a superhero, it's a villain.
Yeah.
So then I was confused. I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on. I'm just confused. So go ahead.
Well, a line that I thought was really funny, because it didn't really make sense and it was kind of strange sounding, was that the main kid, the boy, he says, "Dad brought home fried chicken. I couldn't even choke down a tiny wing."
God, I don't remember that at all. I must have missed that.
He says, "Dad brought home fried chicken. I couldn't even choke down a tiny wing."
I must have gone into the kitchen. That.
Look, that doesn't sound right. And then also there's a villain, and his name is Randy Revenge. And number one, he has biceps the size of soccer balls, which the only way that would be humanly possible is if he used synthol. So that means that he's also weak as hell, because synthol is steroids, and so that's also like, okay, that's not very intimidating. And his whole origin was that he had a terrible childhood, so he wants revenge with the world. And I just thought, this is so dumb and stupid and cheesy, and it just, like, I can't stand this. And I was having trouble, like, completing the book, because it was so boring, it was so bad, and I was just like, and then also another thing that I think is disappointing is that, why does the Night Howler even howl in the first place?
And that's another thing that we didn't bring up. Every time, because he's the Night Howler, every time, and he knew about this too, because everybody knows about it, because they make a comment about it. Every time he's just about ready to capture the person or foil him, keep him from committing his crime, or keep him from completing his crime, he has to howl like a werewolf or something.
Doesn't make sense.
No, and even one of the criminals says, "Why do you do that? Because you're just telling me you're here," because they know who it is, and so then I can better fight you because I know you're there.
Yeah. That's not explained.
That's another inexplicable thing.
And I think that's terrible, because there could have been, like, a good book, I guess, with Night Howler. Like, when I read the title and saw the cover, I wasn't thinking anything about superheroes. So I think it's unfortunate that in the Goosebumps universe, the Night Howler is just, the whole howling thing is kind of stupid and pointless. And then also, what ends up happening, well, it's kind of like a chain reaction or a chain of events. Stella dresses up as the Blue Strawberry as like a Halloween costume so that she can save the Night Howler from the bad guy. And what I thought was stupid about this was the fact that it was basically ripping off Go Eat Worms, where, the sister ends up saving the brother by holding her bird project and making the shadow appear as like a giant bird that would attack the giant worm. And I thought this was just like that, where it's like the sister comes to the rescue, and so I didn't like that either. And
well, we have to say that he sees the costume in her closet, buried in there. So he had the same suspicion as I did. She's that Blue Strawberry. And so he's pissed. And then he's called out, before he talks to her, he's called out to another crime, and she's there again, foiling his whatever he's doing by throwing cantaloupes at him or something like that.
Which is also really idiotic.
Every single time it's a different fruit, so I don't know which one it was.
I guess she's a really fruity villain.
And he was pissed because he thought that was his sister.
She's really fruity.
So he wanted to stop her, but he really wanted to stop her in a big way this time because he thought that was his sister. So he puts that cloud over her and he rips off her mask and he finds out, uh-oh.
But what I thought...
This isn't my sister.
What was stupid...
Somebody else.
What was stupid there was the fact that it's somebody else, but they don't even mention the fact that, like, okay, let's think about his sister's an 8-year-old girl. She's not tall at all. She's like, however...
She'd have to be shorter.
Very, very, very short, like a little kid.
Yeah.
And then you have this blue strawberry, and apparently she's a midget. I mean, like, is that what we're going for here? Like, what's the explanation for, like, the height difference? Like,
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that would be a big deal.
They didn't even mention any height difference at all.
And you're talking about, this is an adult. This isn't a child. And so there would be a height difference.
Yeah.
There would be a lot. And the way she talked would be different, too.
Yeah.
Because his sister would talk like a little girl. That's 8 years old.
Yeah.
And I have a granddaughter who's 7. So, I mean, she doesn't talk like an adult.
No.
And, so, well, he goes home. So there's that.
Another thing, though, is that there's this really irritating chapter cliffhanger where Randy Revenge chokes out the main character, and he makes him pass out. And what was so stupid about this, though, was that he made it sound like the main character was going to die. And you think, R.L. Stine doesn't have the balls to have a character die in a Goosebumps book anymore. So, you know, that was just really dumb to me. It was like him thinking that the audience is so stupid that we're genuinely going to be tricked into believing that a character is going to die. Right, Safi? You remember that?
Yeah, I thought you told me that but now you're just talking about children.
Oh yeah, children.
He says Marco took a master class.
He said in his master class, "I don't kill children in my Goosebumps books," which is a lie. If you've read all of the old Goosebumps books, there's tons of kids that got killed.
I was going to say the photography one.
Welcome to Dead House, where at the end of the book, it's revealed that the whole family was dead the whole time, which means that the kids were dead too. So, like, just totally, like, liar. But, anyways.
I think he just must have forgotten.
I don't know. And there's another 2 things that we're both going to talk about. First off, the kid goes back to the museum again. And the twist is the Night Howler... I mean, not the Night Howler. Dr. Maniac is done being Dr. Maniac.
But you have to tell them why. That is because he went home to his sister, and for some reason he said, you know, I found that costume in your closet. What are you doing with it? And she said, that's my Halloween costume. I wanted to be the blue. So she knows about this as a character. She knew about the character.
Yeah.
So why he didn't know about the character?
Yeah.
How come she knows about the character, but he doesn't?
She used Wikipedia? I don't know. She used Fandom Wire Wiki.
I think her grandparents gave it to her or something, and so then what's next? Because there's a reason why he goes to the museum, because she finds out who he is. How does that happen? Because somebody comes to the house, a villain. It's Dr. Maniac, right? And she has to she has to save him.
Yeah, it's kind of like ripping off The Incredibles, where the bad guy comes to the house at the end, and Jack has to save them. Remember that, Safi?
I do.
Isn't that kind of ripping that off?
I guess so.
Yeah, totally.
If you're, you have to be familiar with all this stuff in a very vivid way to call it back into your writing. But anyway, so because she pretended to be the blue strawberry, but remember, it's a Halloween costume. She has no power, and she's 8. She still saves him, and because she serves as like a distraction, and so he's able to capture the maniac guy. And then because she knows he's the Howler now. Remember at the beginning when I said that if somebody you can't let anybody know who you are, or you lose all your powers, your costume has no effect. You will have no more abilities to do anything. Well, he has now lost all of his abilities. So he goes to the museum. And why? Because he just wants to donate the costume.
Yeah, he's going to donate the costume, Safi.
So what happens at the museum? Guess who else is there? Dr. Maniac.
And Dr. Maniac is conveniently giving up being a villain.
Because he's had it.
And that's also stupid. And I just want to say, like, nobody would ever buy comic books where it is established that the primary hero and villain regularly like to throw their cap up, or give up. No one would ever buy those comic books ever. This has to be like the most trash comic book world in history. And really poor example for children too. Like these main characters, they just give up. And then
that's terrible.
And then, you should just try out being a villain. Like Buddy Jr., where he just wanted to try out college. So...
I'm not a school person.
Yeah, I'm not a school guy.
But I'm not a school guy.
The main guy in this book,
that means.
the main kid, he decides at the very end to become the new Dr. Maniac, which I thought was one of the stupidest twists in Goosebumps history. Because it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense because he's going from being a superhero who helps people and turns criminals into the police. He actually, in the beginning, he turned in a criminal. He took him to the police station. They thanked him. And then that was it. I don't think he captures any more criminals after that. They're all failure because of that blue strawberry person. But anyway, so this villain who's quitting says, you want to be a Dr. Maniac? So he's going from one extreme to the other. I don't get that. Just doesn't make sense to me. To me, it's illogical.
It's just all a game. It's just all like a little children's game. Of like, really, you want to be a superhero for a week? Oh, now you can be a supervillain for a week.
Well, and the thing is, he was coming across villains that were stealing jewelry from a jewelry store and other things. And the thing is that over $50 is a felony.
Yeah.
This is something that lands you in prison. And if you have a gun, of course, that adds more years. And so these aren't little baby, simple little crimes. These are actually bad. And of course, if you're going around wrecking cars, that's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage. So that's another thing. I don't know what the crime is. Vandalism, felony vandalism. I don't know if there is such a thing. I don't know all the criminal,
all the criminal things.
And I mean, these aren't little baby crimes. These are real deal crimes.
These are adult crimes.
And so so a 12-year-old is now going to be a criminal?
Yeah.
Doing adult crimes?
I mean,
what crimes is he going to do?
This isn't like Revenge of the Invisible Boy, where he was getting revenge on that specific group of people, and he wasn't intending on going around to, hurt everyone. This was a kid deciding, I was just a hero, now I be a villain. And, there is such a thing as an anti-hero, which means a hero who also can be a villain.
No, this is not an anti-hero.
But this is not an anti-hero like Deadpool or the Punisher. This is just an idiot. And I just really don't understand why R.L. Stine would write this book.
Plus the fact this is going to happen again. You had the superhero giving his powers to a 12-year-old person.
Yeah.
Now you're having a super villain doing the same thing. Really? Really? Would you do that? Is that a real thing? Does that even make sense in a story?
Yeah, and you think about Attack of the Mutant. At the end of that book, the kid, he became his own character. He had his own character.
Which makes a lot of sense because he was so into comic books and he knew everything about them.
Yeah.
And all the characters and everything. This guy didn't even know who Blue Strawberry was. His sister did. Of all people. A little kid.
So, I don't like this book.
Yeah, I've gotten worse and worse everything I've listened to. That was probably why it was good for me to do a lot of listening to what you were saying and then thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because it did make me think. It's just when you're listening to it for the first time, you're first I was struck that it didn't resemble any kind of Slappyworld, because the thing is, and all these other books...
That's another thing, too.
All the other books, whatever happens, I would say 99% of them, the kid or the family or whatever is in a situation that's never going to end positively. Or if it does, we'll never know about it because it just keeps going on and on and on. Like that one with the haunted house, and the kids go through it again and again. They're with their class, and that's just going to go, it's just going to repeat itself. And they play this music, and it's kind of like, there's the entrapment music at the end, which means...
They don't play that in this book.
No, which indicated me, and because the kid he's going to get to be another comic book person. He's just going to be a comic book villain. So it's not a bad thing for him because he wants to do it. So that means he's not being... it's not a negative thing for him. In other words, he's not going to suffer. He wants it. He doesn't... It's not like he doesn't want it. He wants it really badly. He still wants to be a part of the whole world. So it's not a negative thing. So unlike all these other books where it's been a bad thing. So whatever's happened to them.
I would say another thing would be like, maybe this book could have been interesting if R.L. Stine consulted with like a good comic book writer. Like, because I don't know, like if he got the assignment and because what I felt was that he got this assignment that he was stuck with, and he just wrote this begrudgingly, and he didn't put anything into it at all. And instead of that, just get some help to make it a good story and put actual effort into it, because, like, this is probably one of the worst Goosebumps books we've ever read. I was extremely bored by the end. I'm so glad that I listened to the books on 1.25 speed because it makes it go by faster.
Well, it makes me think, especially when you just brought that up about consulting with an actual comic book series writer.
A good one, though.
Well, whatever. You know who James Patterson is, right? He's a prolific author who usually writes kind of like a mystery.
He's terrible.
Well, I'm not saying... I've read a few of his. One was a Christmas book. I wanted to see what it was like, and then it was another... I don't know. I decided to read another one. His books are very widely published, so they're hard to sell, because I have a whole big group I got at the thrift store, and I thought they would sell, but they haven't. But anyway, my point is that he was writing his own books for a long time. And now he's doing this thing where he pairs up with somebody. Like he's paired up with Bill Clinton.
Ew.
He's paired up with all kinds of people, male and female, just one person. And so I don't know why. I'd like to know why, but R.L. Stine could have done that in this case.
Yeah, he should have.
Or he could do something like that where you'd have the benefit of the experience of the comic book writer and of his experience.
Because then it would be a drawing point, because it would be like, this book is different. But then
that's why they do it too. It draws people to read the book.
That brings the main point, though, is that this book does not feel like a Goosebumps book.
Oh, that's what I said. That's what I felt like right at the beginning and all the way through, and the end.
So I give it a D for
guess
dumb and dull.
I was going to give it a C, but after thinking about giving powers to a 12-year-old, an adult male person, even a female, giving those, and then a little kid who, that's fine, because I had two boys who were very knowledgeable about things at a very young age. So that's not surprising. I know my other son has a 7-year-old girl, and she knows a lot about different characters and stories, and it's because he's exposed her to these things. So it's not foreign to me that the girl in the book would know about Blue Strawberry. But what's weird, I mean, this kid Mason was so enamored of the comic book world. He really wanted to go to this museum. It was all about him and him going to the museum. That the whole family was participating in this. Why wouldn't he have known about Blue Strawberry? I mean, there's just the existence of her. I mean, I would think she sounds like she's a pretty well-known character. And that's what I'm saying. There's just so many big pieces in the story that don't make sense. And like Marco said, it would have benefited him to do a collaboration with somebody who knew about. They would probably freak out if R.L. said, well, why don't we do this? And the person, when they said, let's give these powers to a 12-year-old child, they probably would have freaked out. And maybe that's why I couldn't.
Let's have two scenes in the book where the 12-year-old child wanders in on the grown man undressing from his superhero costume, because, at one time is good enough for comedic effect, but 2 times it makes you wonder of what they were thinking with that.
I mean, you've got a very famous writer, James Patterson. He's not famous because his material is just so well done, because he's written a lot of different stories. And he's willing to relinquish his, what would you call it, just collaborating with all kinds of different people, different authors, famous people. I don't know who all, but I've seen them. Every time there's a new one all the time. They're constantly churning out books. And I don't know why R.L. Stine couldn't do an occasional one. Like this would have been an occasional one. Because he's written all these, well, they fall under the Slappyworld character, even though there's no Slappy in the story. And it's not really a Goosebumps story. It's something else. I don't even know what to call it. A goofy, it doesn't make a sense, nonsensical story. So, I don't know. I just, I don't know. We'll see how many more books are there?
4.
Did you say 4 more to read?
Yeah. What?
When was do you have any idea when the latest one was written? I'm just curious.
Which one?
The latest Slappyworld book, when it came out.
Remember,
we read it, right?
But we read the last one. That
was 2023.
Yes, Safi. That was in June or
So
July.
here he is. I suggest to you, R.L. Stine, that maybe you'll come up with better ideas. Just don't do a comic book unless you do a collaboration. if you can find somebody, I would think that you could get somebody who's more familiar with the comic book world and what to and what not to write. So anyway, so I gave it a bad grade too. I was going to give it a C. First I was going to give it a B, then it went down to a C, and now it's a D. And
that's how I did it.
And that's kind of like being...
That was the journey of this book.
That's being generous.
Yeah, it is.
Because you had a child.
No, I don't.
R.L. Stine had a child. The child grew up and is as old as my older son. And you know you wouldn't do that. That makes no sense.
Yeah, it's like, okay, go mow the lawn. But for R.L. Stine, it's like, okay, go save the world, little brat.
Well, anyway, so that's what it went down to, and I don't know what else to say, because I don't understand how he decided to make the decisions on the storyline like he did. I have no idea where they came from. So anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers so you can be part of the discussion. You can add or take away from what we said. Have you read any of these books? What do you think? What are you watching? And what do you think about that? And do you have any ideas about what to watch or what to read? Pretty soon we're going to be reading a new series. I feel like I should be picking that out.
Really?
Since I've read so many series.
You think you're going to pick out some
no, I know,
middle-aged women's series?
A lot of series I've read are about women. The Witch one was really good, and I've been looking for a new one to come out. But that's an adult book, a lot more to it, and so it takes a lot more.
You're not good at finishing adult books because you wouldn't finish the delicate condition.
I've read about 99% of every book I've had, so don't give me that bullshit.
Wouldn't read Wuthering Heights.
No, I don't want to read Wuthering Heights.
It's not
my kind of book.
Won't finish Delicate Condition to review it.
No, I haven't. That's from the American Horror Story that's been kind of like hanging out there. Showed a couple of episodes before the new year. And now we're waiting for the other, whatever many, and it's very boring. The book is, and I had a hard time listening to it, so because it was so boring. So, anyway, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.